How you guys doing today? It's Anthony Gangi. Welcome to another episode of Tier Talk. Guys, we're going to show a video of a recent attack at the Souza Baranowski Facility up in Massachusetts. The video was sent our way. My guest today is going to be Russ Hamilton. I'm basically going to show you a couple of videos. One is going to come from the news because they actually have a part of the video before the assault happened that I think is very interesting. So I would like to show that first. Then we'll show the whole video in its entirety. And then I'm going to show you another video with an inmate explaining JPay tablets. And I think that's going to play out into what our discussion is going to entail. My guest today is Russ Hamilton. Let me get Russ on. What up, Russ?
Hey there, Anthony. How's it going?
Good. Hey, Russ, you mind introducing yourself to our audience?
Of course. My name is Russ Hamilton. I am a retired and former sergeant from California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. I have also been a senior juvenile correctional officer. I currently work for a company where we do reentry and rehabilitation work with inmates at a local county jail where I am a case manager, and for a local probation department. And I'm also the founder of Keepers of Chaos, which is all about doing everything that we can to promote and enhance safety, security, knowledge, learning, and training for all correctional staff, not just those with a badge.
Yes, and by the way, Russ, it's always a pleasure to have you on. Obviously, we got hit up with a few messages today, so what we're going to do again is just break down the video. But before we do that, I want to show you this video coming from the local news in their area. I thought it was interesting because Russ hasn't seen this part yet, but they have about maybe 3 or 4 seconds prior to the incident where the full video that we saw only has pretty much the incident. And I want you guys to be mindful when you watch this video. The first inmate that attacks this officer looks to have a weapon in his hand. So these aren't punches, and Russ will explain how you can tell the difference even by just how they're swinging. But it looks like the person could have a weapon in his hand. So it's not punches. These are possibly stabbings or shankings. Okay, let me get this video going. All right, bear with me, guys.
Attack in a prison left several guards in the hospital. Surveillance video showing the moment an inmate lunges at and ambushes one of the guards. Those guards are all expected to be okay, but one is still in the hospital this morning. 7's Kim Lucy's live at Souza Baranowski Correctional Center in Lancaster with the latest. Kim?
Yeah, the union has described this as a targeted attack against an officer, releasing that shocking video of what happened inside. Distract and attack. Security video from inside the Souza Baranowski Correctional Center shows how an inmate brutally ambushed a prison guard Wednesday. In the video released by the Massachusetts Correction Officers Union, you can see the prisoner leaning against a wall as the officer walks by, and appears another inmate grabs his attention. And that's when the inmate attacks with a blow straight to the guard's face. The officer takes several hits before he's able to pin the inmate down, but then a second inmate jumps in, followed by another guard. It becomes an all-out brawl, ending with 5 guards injured and 3 inmates transferred to another facility.
This looked like it was a planned attack. It almost like some sort of retaliation.
As the targeted officer remains hospitalized with a punctured lung and a dozen stab wounds, his union is now taking aim at prison leadership. They're calling for a full security audit at every state prison. The union claims the Department of Correction has ignored its warnings about increased violence for years. They provided these examples of some of the 70-plus makeshift weapons seized from Souza Baranowski over the last 3 months alone.
You can take whatever steps that you can take.
Donald Leach is a prison security expert who worked in correctional facilities for nearly 40 years. While he says it's vital for administrators to investigate this attack and determine a motive, eliminating all weapons from prisons, he says, would be nearly impossible.
Human beings are creative, and they get very creative when there's a need.
Now, the Department of Corrections says it is conducting a full security assessment, at least here at this prison. The Worcester County District Attorney's Office is also investigating. Visitation had been suspended since this attack happened, but is scheduled to resume here today.
You're mute.
All right, guys, I want to just give a little context here, but I want to show something in this video real quick before we move on. But basically, this is day room. So these are GP inmates. Yes, they're maximum inmates, but these are general population inmates. So they are allowed out certain times to kind of have a very controlled wreck. From what I hear, there's 3 officers on the floor that monitor this wreck. In this facility here, it looks like they do half the unit at a time. My sources, again, I don't know if the numbers are truly accurate, but with that said, there should be around 70 or 80 inmates in one unit, and they do half at a time. So either 35 or 40 at a time. So I guess they kind of split it up, half in the morning, half at later in the afternoon, and then vice versa. There's a couple of concerns we'll go when we break down the video. I just wanted to give context to that and basically let you know that this is just active rec time technically. So it's normal to have inmates out and about because even though they're max, it's still their GP setting. So these inmates do have a little bit more freedom than you would find in a more punitive or more administrative segregation unit. So Russ, real quick, before we go to the whole video, I want to show you just one more part of this video. The way the news said distract and attack, I know they only removed 3. And I'm assuming it's the 3 that are actively involved in the attack, which you'll see when we show you the whole video. But there's also a gentleman or an inmate that they blurred out who seems to get the officer's attention right before the officer gets stabbed. And that's where they come with the distract and attack. And for me, I would be all over that inmate that was sitting in that chair. Even if it just happened to be coincidence, it doesn't matter because it looks like that inmate could have distracted the officer, got the officer's attention, and this inmate could have pounced. That's how I would see it. But let me just show you that part once again that I'm talking about, and then we'll go into the let me just get Russ's perspective on this. So because she mentions distract and attack.
Shocking video of distract and attack. Security video from inside the Souza Baranowski Correctional Center shows how an inmate brutally ambushed a prison guard Wednesday.
So those are weapons, but wait, Russ, right here.
Officers Union, you can see the prisoner leaning.
So now you got the prisoner leaning outside his cell door, which to me and Russ, we talked about that when you're out for rec, you're either out or you're in. And the moment you either you get in, we shut the door. The moment you go, if you're in the day room, we shut the door. If you're going back in your cell, we shut the door. But I don't like the recs being ran where you allow the inmates to go back and forth to their cell. So if I saw this inmate like this, the first thing I would say is either you're going to take rec or you're going to go back in your cell. But watch this. Watch the guy in the left that's blurred out. He gets the officer's attention. That's when this inmate starts to pounce. So that inmate right there would be someone I would also be shipping out, but hold on.
Against a wall as the officer walks by, and appears another inmate grabs his attention, and that's when the inmate attacks with the blow straight to the guard's face.
To the guard's throat.
Several hits before he's able
or to the officer's throat.
Down,
sorry, you got me all
inmate
confused.
jumps in.
Okay, so Russ, at the very beginning, what do you see, brother?
So you're right about that. They should be in or out, and they shouldn't be in a position in the doors, especially if people are left in those doors that can slide a weapon out to them. That's my first concern right there. When you see the other guy, call to the officer apparently in order to get him to look left when the threat's towards kind of the officer's right a little bit as he's getting past the guy there. It's kind of still behind him. And then that puts the officer in a disadvantage. When your attention is called, you're gonna act and react to it naturally. And so that officer, as he turns that direction, that guy is able to come up there and get those stabs in. You can see that he uses that kind of ridge hand type of strike where the weapon is in there. It's coming from this side of his palm, and he just reaches back. Those are very difficult to see and very difficult to defend against. And he puts multiple hits on the officer, but you can see that the officer recovers and then is able to defend himself and then is able to kind of, hold things until he knows the cavalry's coming to help him. So, kudos to that officer. He did a great job considering what he was affronted with there.
Yeah, and as I said, guys, we're not being told those aren't punches; those are stabs. So it looks like he got stabbed in the throat, and looks like the inmate was also trying to stab him in the head. Now, guys, I'm going to show you the whole video now, but it just doesn't have those first 4 seconds that we saw that the news had, which I believe was definitely something worth looking into. Now, Russ, real quick, for the inmate that got the officer's attention, I mean, I would also be looking to ship that inmate out and let the hearing officer decide, or let the people decide if that person was actively involved or not. Correct?
Yeah, the one thing that you want to do here is you want to make sure that there's no chance that these these inmates are talking about things that might happen in a retaliatory style. So you're going to ship all of them out. You're going to ship them to hopefully different institutions, but at least different units, so that they don't have any chance, or as little chance as possible, as communicating together. I have heard and been told that there were 3 individuals that were shipped out. So that definitely kind of jives with the idea of the 2 attackers and the one at the table, who, from my point of view, is almost obviously the setup man.
Right. There's the 3rd inmate that gets involved in the physical attack. So there's 2 at first, and there's another one that gets involved. So I don't think that inmate at the table.
Okay, that could be. I have a very tiny screen, but on this, I would say that they should be looking at that one now and looking to flip him, obviously. But you've got to start then looking at what their associations are, because there's very likely to be some type of gang affiliation there. And then I've also been told that they are looking at charges of attempted murder on all of these individuals. Now, I don't know that any of those charges have been filed yet, but it's certainly, it's certainly in the specter of great possibility right now. I think that the things that we have to look at here are, number one, are there any strategic mistakes, as you brought up, with regards to, inmates being too close to some of these doors and things, or are they allowed to do that? Are the officers kept from saying, hey, no, you got to be in, you got to be out? And then there's a few other issues that have been brought out, but we can get to those after we do this next part of the video.
And I also believe they should put it in the conspiracy to commit murder, because it's definitely premeditated. I believe you got the inmate waiting outside with a weapon in his hand. So this is all thought out. And if that inmate there was the one that's trying to distract him, then that's where maybe either flip the person, or you try to really get that person to kind of give you the information, because that could be the key from going from just an attempted murder to the conspiracy to commit it, the premeditated.
Yeah.
And then also, from what I'm being told, there could have been weapons already kind of on the outside to just get ourselves ready for the response. So if you have the one inmate that's looking to attack the officer, then you could have other inmates waiting for the team to come in so they can get their hands on the team, so then that this one inmate can carry out the assault on the officer. Again, Russ.
Yeah, so I was going to say, so the weapon itself really does help lend to that conspiracy idea, because if you're going to charge someone with a conspiracy, you have to have that overt act. So the manufacture of the weapon, possibly the passing of the weapon, the knowledge of the weapon, anything in regards to being able to help stage and position where that weapon's going to be, all adds to that conspiracy. So whether we have 3 individuals or 4, it could be, 5, 6, 7, 8, anything in relation to that weapon could be part of the conspiracy if they knew about it, and if they did any part of that overt act in helping position that weapon there. So hopefully they're going to have, some on the ball investigators, looking deep into this thing. Beyond that, I just want to say, hats off to everyone working at that facility. Anthony and I have done a couple of different videos of them responding to incidents there, and they always bring it. I think that the only bad part about it is I don't think that they're given all of the tools we need. We'll get into that some too.
Yeah, and Russ taught me something back in a few episodes ago. And guys, nothing's ever 100%, but I actually, the moment you taught me this, I shared it with my officers. I just food for thought. When inmates have metal weapons, it's usually meant for staff, because they know that they're not going to get through the metal detector. So usually those metal weapons are used more in that immediate area. And then for plastic weapons, that could be something that they try to get through the metal detectors into areas where they could be in another unit or a yard where they can then get out an inmate. But that's never left me. Now, nothing's 100%. We're not saying it's 100%, but the odds To me, that just made so much sense. I thought that was one of the most powerful lessons you've ever, out of the many, granted, you always give out some powerful lessons, but that was one that has stuck to me. It kind of made the probability of a metal weapon for staff to be a lot more higher in my thought. All right, let me get this other video in. So now this is the total video, the total breakdown. So this is this one here. Let me share it. All right. So Russ, you see the whole video, right?
Yeah.
All right. So this is quiet. There's no noise here, but then there. So we're assuming that right there is the knife. Look how he's punching, right, Russ? How he's throwing
Yeah.
it.
That ridge hand is a pretty good giveaway to that's what's happening there.
And then and how he rapidly does it. That's kind of letting you know he's trying to push something in. Supposedly, this officer, one of the officers, had their lungs punctured.
Yes.
So now it's a one-on-one. So now here comes the third officer. He helps out, taking the one that's aggressive. And then now you'll see that there's another inmate that comes out of the woodwork. You'll see he's coming from down there, and that's probably. Actually, we may have to rewind it a little bit after this. I want to see what happened to that first inmate that was the distraction.
Yeah. See, here comes
That's the third. So those are the three that are immediately transferred to another facility. And for people asking why, one is obviously for safety reasons. You don't want them housed there, but also the other reason why is to keep things objective, because at this point there'll be a fear that there'll be retaliation from staff to inmates. So we don't want to give the lawyers that. So what we do is we ship the inmates out immediately to alleviate any possible lawsuit.
The Morgans are gearing up to replace their drafty.
Let me stop that. From any possible potential lawsuit that they'll try to get for bullshit retaliation. Okay, Russ, so what do you got there?
So I was never able to tell if that individual at the table was the one that came in at the end or not. That's why it's a little bit up in the air what's going on there. But here's the thing I'll tell you that is my takeaway from the response. First of all, the galloping horde, good job on that. Talking to some people there, they don't have the tools that they need. They have supervisors only carrying pepper spray. And that is an antiquated model. You don't keep doing the same things when you're facing new and evolving threats like these gangs, colluding and operating in a way where this is actually a hit job. You make sure that every single one of your people is a force multiplier, and you give them all of the tools that you need. Number one, pepper spray for everybody. Number two, a baton for everybody. Number three, chemical grenades for everybody. Number four, tasers with at least the supervisors in effect there. And you have also that, places, non-centralized places where you can go get the heavy artillery, the 40 millimeters, so you can get the block guns in there. You can disperse more chemical agents out of those 40 millimeters and everything else. So they really rely on this flood the line type of mentality, which is good. Sometimes you have to have that. But really what you want is the force multiplier mentality, where every single officer is a force multiplier and has all of that stuff coming. And if anyone, from Souza, I'm not sure how you guys pronounce it, wants to know more about, how we did it in California Department of Corrections, I think it would make it a safer place. The other thing
Hey, Russ, I want to mention something too. So that second guy, the guy that did the distraction, watch this, guys, just very carefully, watch this. He is able to collect his stuff and then go into his cell. Now, I just want to mention a couple of things real quick. One is when you have a code, obviously you want to try to get everybody back in. But at this point here, leaving that cell door open, that guy could have went in, got a weapon, who knows? But I'm also hearing that the way they control the doors here the doors are controlled basically on the pod, sort of. So basically it's one officer controlling the pod. So at any time that officer is to get taken out, the inmates can get control of those cell doors. Now, that is what I'm being told, and I've seen units set up that way. I'd rather have units with local control points that have the eye in the sky who's protected, and therefore you can't get to that that officer who's controlling the cell doors. But from what I'm told, and maybe someone from the facility can let me know if I'm right or not, is the control of the doors is pretty much in the unit. And the only thing that's stopping the inmates from controlling the doors is the officer that is there. So there's no barrier there. So my other question would be, if this is happening, would that officer then be responding, and now that whole area could be vulnerable? How would that work? But the biggest concern I have, I know we're looking at the 3 that was assaulted, but when you watch that one inmate, and Russ, I got to get your opinion on this, that one inmate being able to make it back to his cell, how big of a problem is that?
Well, depending on the level of the security or non-security of the doors, you could have, if they're leaving them open for guys to come in and out, then you could have more inmates, flooding the scene, which is something that you don't want. You have the potential there for destruction of evidence. You have the potential there for retrieving more weapons. You have the potential there for, all kinds of different shenanigans. Now, how long was it until they were able to review this and see that he went down there? It's one of those things that's problematic. When we operated, units like this, it was everyone went back to their door with an officer who motioned, to control, to pop the door, put him in. If you let people go in willy-nilly and just be on the doors and have access to them, opening or closing or anything else that's going on, there's potential for murders, shankings, assaults, sexual activity, all kinds of stuff if you're not controlling those doors properly. And so, that's a thing too, where what is going on? Is this policy? Is it procedure? And so,
Russ, if you watch this video, so I mean, the one concern you could also is he could throw the weapon into the cell. But watch this, you could tell it's targeted, because even when the second officer comes in to stop the one main guy, this inmate is still going after that one officer. Watch. So he's going after. I mean, these are throat shots. These are face shots. I mean, you're looking to go after this officer. Now it's 2-on-1. Now the other officer grabs this guy, but now look, he's still going after that guy. He's trying to get at that officer.
Right.
He's not even focused on the officer that's coming after him. He's focused on that officer. So now it's switched, because now they're, now there he goes, right back at that officer. So it's like maybe they're being told they needed to take this officer out, and if they didn't, they could go through. If it was a gang thing. But if you notice, that guy's full attention is on that officer, and just out of curiosity, not that it minimizes anything, but it looks like to me there's definitely something personal between these two.
Yeah, it could be personal, or it could be a green light situation. And green light, they go until they're stopped by staff, whatever that takes, whether that means being shot, or whether that means being tased or pepper sprayed or whatever else. But or it could be a personal thing. If it was a personal thing, I kind of think that officer, maybe when he was passing by that guy, might have shown a little bit more reluctance to pass on that side of the table. But you never know. It could be, time has passed, but some of these guys, they hold grudges, or they simply know that because of the bad blood between them, that they're required to take some type of action.
Yeah, because look, even this other guy that comes onto the scene, he goes right after that one officer. So look, so you get that officer on the ground. So now he tries to get at the officer, right? So he's doing. Then this guy comes in, stops the main attacker at first, but he's not letting go. He's still going after that officer. Now watch when this other guy comes in. He doesn't try to go on the two officers that have the upper hand. He goes after the one officer that the original attack was for. Because watch. So we come in, and now watch this guy. His job is to watch this inmate when he comes in. He goes strictly for the officer that was originally attacked. And I just want to make sure I'm correct. But watch, he's going to come in now. And couple seconds he comes. Here he goes. Watch. He goes right after the one officer. And look, he's not going after this guy. He's trying to, hey, step back. He's not going after that guy. He's going after this guy.
Right.
See that? He's going out, and that is the same officer that he's going after. So now you got this guy going after him. He gets overwhelmed. So now he's going to try to help take out this officer. So so keep your eye on that officer right now so you don't lose him. He's the one right there. He's the one to the right. And now watch when the next inmate comes in. The next inmate comes in and he starts going after the same officer. And I kind of feel like he tells the other officer, step back so he can get at this guy. So he didn't lunge at any officer. He lunges at, watch, here we go. So they're both getting this guy. And now this inmate's going to come in and go after that same officer. He comes right in as if they had to do this. I think there's a lot more here, like you're saying, Russ. Because watch, this guy comes in and he tries to continue the job. Watch. He gets him once, and at one point, it looks like he tells the officer, step back, whoa, step back. And then now he's like, his concern is the officer is a distract. The other officer, he's going after this main guy. And there goes probably more stabs. I mean, this is, that one officer is definitely the target. I mean, what's your thoughts, Russ?
Yeah, I think it probably is a green light situation. So that's what I would say. And unless it was, something that was immediately, personal, maybe within the past few days or something. But this is kind of the common thing that we've seen. An officer makes a drug bust, or an officer uses force on someone, or any other thing, and sometimes you don't even know. I mean, I've been greenlit before and was, lucky to get out of it and not have any damage. But I had a friend of mine that just passed away recently who, he was attacked inside a chow hall full of inmates, and it was terrible. He took quite the beating, but kept on going. And so this is the type of thing that, correctional staff deal with every day is, being braver than the situation that they're put into.
Yeah. And guys, if it comes to the premeditated, proving the person was a target is great. So if these inmates are coming at me, you figure the officer that the third inmate went after wasn't really an officer that was a threat to his boys. That officer wasn't. It was the other one, technically, if you wanted to look at it that way. So the fact that he kept on coming for this one officer, they all did, that somewhere along the line, this inmate was targeted. That means if it was targeted, something was said, something was devised, the plan was devised, or whatever it is, because that officer is definitely the target of whatever is happening here. So hopefully what they do is after they interview these three inmates, I would actually, obviously, the officer is going to get, he's got to, he's going to be out on leave for quite some time. Hopefully the jail covers him or the prison covers him. But I definitely think keep the facility locked down for a little bit longer. Because I know they said they wanted to get visits out. The only reason why I would disagree with it is this looks like it's a targeted attack. So once you have a targeted attack, that means you have a chance for the inmates to unite. So I don't know. We don't know what they were trying to accomplish. We don't know if they were trying to accomplish taking this officer out, or do they just want to go after any officer to take a message? Was this the message they wanted, or is there a message of literally we are going to kill an officer? So having said that, opening up the facility right away, thinking that the threat is absolved the moment you transfer those three out, I totally disagree. I think that facility should be actually locked down as long as it needs to be.
I was going to say that's really a key factor there is, that myopic thinking that, hey, we've transferred the individuals. And so the threat is evaporated when you don't even know what caused the threat. That's why, I'm always hesitant. It always irritates me when the idea is, well, let's get back to normal operating procedures. Well, hey, you know what? If you go back to that too fast, you might have a real lockdown. Give investigators the time to, puzzle things out some, make the inmates have to, squirm a little bit. Hey, they're not going to get their visits. Big deal. We're talking about a man's life here. Thank God he wasn't killed. Yeah. And you're worried about getting the visits out. This is a time to reassess. And this is about the safety of staff. It's about the safety of the public, and it's about the safety of the inmates as well. So cool your jets and do this thoroughly, and don't be this kind of reactionary department that you've got now, where you do things half-assed all the time. And we see more and more of the political aspects of things coming into our decision-making process. Stay out of the decision-making process of the professionals and let them decide. And that's, that's what I've got to say about it, because if you don't know gangs, if you don't know how prison politics work, if you don't know the reasons why they might have greenlit someone, if you don't know, how they manufactured that shank, where it came from, and all of those things, you don't have any business inside the decision-making process.
Right.
You deciding that, hey, these families need their visits. Well, that is not providing for the safety of the loved ones of those families, is it? Because you don't know what the next shoe to drop is going to be.
And guys, I got to mention something too. There's a difference between inmates kind of running to a code to help an inmate, like we saw here, or basically trying to carry out whatever that mission is. These inmates, when they ran, it's not that they try to pull the inmate out into safety or protect the inmate from the other officers. No, each inmate that went in there went to attack that one officer. So I think they all had this objective that if you can't do it, I got to jump. So I do think it's reflective of the group, because if you see how urgent those inmates are and to try to take that officer out, that means it wasn't just reflective on that one inmate to do it. There was a group of inmates that were responsible. Maybe it were the lookouts. Maybe the lookouts were the ones that also had to have some level of responsibility for this being taken out, or for this mission to be carried out. But those inmates came in to help that inmate carry out that assault. That's why they ran. Usually, sometimes you get inmates that may run and they're trying to separate the staff from the inmate or whatever. No, not in this case. These inmates came running in, and they didn't go after the support officers. They went after. They all wanted to get a shot to make sure that this was successful. It's not like we're battling through a code and this one inmate's attacking Russ, and when the other inmates come, or when the other officers come running in, we go after the response team. That's not what they did. Every inmate that came in, those two inmates, they went right after that officer as if they had to take that officer out. There was no ifs and buts about it. And like Russ said, the cause is extremely important, because the cause could be something long-term and not so incidental. This, so basically is, okay, we stopped the fight, or we protected the officer. Now the officer is going out. But with that said, what caused it? We really shouldn't open up anything until we could find out what is happening here and look to develop the longer term solution, not look to get things moving so we can open up visits again. Totally the wrong way. I don't like the way the news reporter said that. To me, that's the biggest concern, because that's why things keep on happening. But the other thing is, how were they able to carry it out? That's another thing. So since there are weapons being used, we got to find out where they're getting their weapons from. Now, I don't know if there's 100%, but if you listen to what the news is saying, the news is saying that they could have been getting it, or to some extent, they don't know if it relates to this, but they said that how people could be getting weapons, inmates could be getting weapons from the metal inside the JPay tablet. So I got a quick little video here of an inmate showing you what a JPay tablet is. Now, we're not saying this is where these inmates got the weapons from, but there is metal inside here. So let me go ahead and show you one more video. I think you'll find this interesting. And we're using it for fair use purpose. It's this one. All right, let me just, there it goes.
In this video, I'm going to be showing y'all my tablet from Florida State Prison. So this is what it looks like. This is some artwork someone gave me to put inside the cover here on the back. As you can see, there's a...
I just want to say one thing, guys, for anybody watching it. If we saw artwork on the back of a tablet that blocks us being able to see what's inside that tablet is going to get confiscated. That inmate is going to get charged. Inmates, when they get given these items, these electronics, they're all see-through. So the moment someone wants to put an art item or an art picture on that little tablet, which most people, oh, what's the big deal? I can't see inside it now. So that tablet, again, Russ.
I was going to say, and not just can't see inside it, but that piece of artwork often leads back to gang illustrations, gang insignia. If they're carrying that inside there, they could also carry other things inside there. They could carry kites and wheelers and maybe a weapon, drugs, and everything else. And so all of those things relate right back to that. Inmates altering things always turns out bad. And I can say that with 100% assurity. Every time an inmate alters something, things are going to turn out bad. Maybe not in a particular instance, but somewhere down the line, it will be taken advantage of.
Yeah, and guys, I want to mention something. If you look at it,
this is some
this
artwork
looks like it's
someone
done on
gave
the
me
inside. So it means that they may have put it on the inside, which means that they have access to open it, which is a very big concern in our world. Okay, let me show you this.
Put inside the cover here on the back. As you can see, there's a cover on it to keep it safe in case you drop it in your cell. To get this tablet in Florida prison, you have to be on the compound, or if you're in solitary confinement, you have to be on close management 3. So this tablet, you can email people using JPay. This is a JPay tablet. So your people on the outside have to have JPay, the app on their phone, or use the website to email you. And all of the emails are monitored by the corrections officers. They read everything in all the emails. Your people can send you pictures through the emails. You can save pictures on here. You can download movies to rent. You get to rent them for like 3 days, I think. And you can also download a ton of music. I spent most of my money using the kiosk to download music on here. A lot of rappers especially have their albums on JPay. A lot of street rappers. All the rappers that have been to prison have their music on JPay. And so you can watch movies, download music, you can use the email. You can also download some games. You have to buy them. You can download some cheap games. This is the charger that they give you with it. So a CO will go and plug this in behind your cell. And then there's a little hole in the wall in the back of your cell on CM3 where this will be poking out the back of your cell, and you just plug this in to charge your tablet up in your cell. Seemed like my tablet and a lot of people's tablets had battery issues. I kept mine on the charger a lot of the times. And I also wanted to show y'all, this is some artwork I had an inmate make me. I paid him a honey bun and some peanut butter to make these for me to send them to my mom. Some guy named Old Butterbean made these for me. I sent them home to my mom. I wasn't lying when I told y'all I have a lot of letters from inmates and a lot of things saved.
Sorry about that. Yeah, he went a little off topic, but I just wanted to show people the tablets and then obviously having access to the inside of that cover to go ahead and block what staff probably need to see inside, because our stuff is clear through. But as you could tell, you can make that into a weapon immediately. I mean, most of the inmates may want to protect those things because they don't want to lose it. But with that said, if they got to do something and it's urgent, then I'll tell you something. They will become very resourceful, and anything could become a weapon. Remember, when inmates have limited resources, they become extremely resourceful. And unfortunately, staff, we may not be ready at times, especially if like Russ said before, they got all the time in the world to think of how to play things out. But again, not to hindsight bias anything, but I think the biggest concern here that I saw at the very beginning was the inmate just waiting there while the officer, is getting ready to walk past them, and then basically getting distracted by the other inmate. I think for me, it would have been, you either got to choose in or out, shut the door, whichever way they go. But I don't want that inmate, this side of me while I'm looking over here without any barrier in between us. Would you agree with that? And I think if the officer would have did that, the inmate would have then went forward with his attack anyway. He was just trying to be sneakily with it. But if the officer would have confronted him at that moment, then the officer probably would have had a better chance against the first attack, which looked like it got the officer somewhere around the neck.
Yeah. Or the front of the chin. It was looking like to me maybe on the first blow. But one of the difficult things about working that type of unit is just the sheer numbers of inmates that you deal with. And I don't want to harp too much on the because it can be like hindsight bias. But you just get to a point sometimes where you're not really necessarily complacent but you just have to operate in the thing, and you can't go everywhere, just and just take a ready stance to everything that you're doing. But good safety things to come up with are just deciding where you are going to allow inmates to be within your personal hula hoop of space, and how much you're going to let them be out of your sight. So if you decide that ahead of time and you make that your practice and you put yourself into a position where that becomes your habit, you'll be better off than just trying to wing it every single day, if you know what I mean. Because I've talked a lot in the past about about the tactical distancing and the reactionary gap, and deciding where inmates get to be and where they don't get to be. And having been the recipient of a few different attacks on myself, it made all the difference. I had one, it was just a sucker punch, nothing like this. I've never been stabbed. But where the guy just came up to my side, I still got to see him, but it was only for a split second. And then after he hit me, we were fighting. And so, if you make those decisions ahead of time and know what your personal space is going to be and where you're going to allow inmates to be and not to be, and I can't say that enough, then you'll get into the right habits. And maybe that helps in a situation like that. Maybe it doesn't. It's just my 2 cents worth, guys.
Yeah. So the message I got here, so this is coming to me, from what I was told, this is what people are saying. This was a premeditated attack, as all their belongings were packed after the incident. So these inmates knew what the outcome was going to be. Also, there have been unverified threats against some of the officers in that unit. The inmate did stab the officer over a dozen times, punctured his lung, amongst other injuries that were sustained, also sustained by the others involved. They feel that administration, and this is what they're saying, feel that administration failed to protect staff as they continue to do this. We've had over 100 assaults in the last 6 to 9 months, from spit to bodily fluid and physical assault. The offenders actually get more out of cell and rec and phone access and segregation as opposed to GP, which is also a huge issue. And now it's no longer a seg unit, but a behavioral adjustment unit. So ultimately, it's just a giant timeout. And for serious violent offenders, it's a secure adjustment unit instead of segregation. And the uptick with assaults on staff have skyrocketed ever since the implementation of body-worn cameras. I will say one thing, guys. Everybody gets so concerned of what could be considered the word segregation, and basically what they do is they try to soften it up. Now it's behavioral adjustment or whatever it is, when at the end of the day, punitive is also a part of safety and security. So at that part, I may not be looking for rehabilitation at that moment. At that point, I want to make sure that my staff is safe. So at this point, my concern is, to really focus on getting this threat handled, and rehabilitation could always come later. But sometimes people get so concerned because they feel that the effort to hold someone responsible has to immediately account for something rehabilitative. So we don't want to put them in a segregation. Let's make it a behavioral unit. Well, then that's unique, because now when you start to switch gears, then people expect more from those behavioral units. Well, if this is a behavioral unit, why aren't the inmates going out at least 2, 3, 4 hours a day? And it's like, oh, we'll look into it. It's like, no, guys, we should put out what this unit really is. It's a unit that is a segregation unit that's meant to handle the threats until we're able to confirm if this person is willing to start moving forward correctly. And if that's the case, then we will work with the individual to, get them on the right path. But with that said, I think the verbiage, what we're labeling things, and it's like, well, we'll call it a behavioral unit. Okay, well, then if it's just a behavioral unit, then people are going to expect rehabilitation immediately. And I disagree. I think when you have attacks on staff at this level, rehabilitation can come later. Let's get these people secured. And I know some people, equate like safety and security and punitive, and maybe off the record it looks the same, but it doesn't matter, guys. Safety and security comes first. So I don't care how it's viewed. I don't care if people say, well, they're being punished. Well, they should be, and at this point here, they got to be in a spot where I'm not worried about taking them outside right away. Like an inmate just stabs an officer, and then within a couple of days, now we're worried about making sure that inmate gets out for a few hours. Nah, you know what we could do? Keep them in the cell, have mental health visit them multiple times, make sure that the person's not decompensating, and let this person one, be held responsible, but two, let's deter the threat. Because the biggest thing that's going to happen now is that these inmates now wind up going to a higher level, but still a behavioral adjustment unit. So once they go there, there's the push to get them out, give them back their stuff. And it's like, hold on, because right now this is about safety and security. These inmates still have to be held accountable, and staff also have to feel comfortable to work those units again. Now imagine the officers now, after this major assault happens, having to go back on that unit and having to work that unit. What about their mental health? What about their well-being? I mean, here we are. Let's get them out to visits. Is staff even ready? Have we talked to staff? Do they have any concerns? Do any mental health concerns, on top of that? Like, I mean, are they able to go to work? Because the biggest concern you have right now is if you let this out too soon, staff could also be still in a state of paranoia. Like, oh my God, it could happen to me. And all of a sudden now you get all these free-for-all attacks from the staff to inmates because they're afraid, because we haven't resolved the issue. Staff has no idea why it happened, who targeted it, or if it was a target premeditated. How did these inmates get these weapons? So if I was staff and I had to work directly on that unit right after this incident, and we're being told to open things up, I would be in a state of paranoia. I would, because I don't know, there's no resolve here. I have no way to know if we don't know what happened and basically what caused and how they were to carry out. I have no way to reconcile this in my head. I need to know what happened, why it happened, how it happened. So I'm able to, when I do my rounds, to be a little cautious in the areas that could have motivated this attack. But would you agree with that, Russ?
Yeah, but not just the the how, the why, and all of those things. It's time for them to look at what that response feed to that incident looked like. As I said before, there should have been chemical munitions deployed from both aerosol pepper projectors and from chemical grenades. And then later on, because we don't see how protracted the incident is at that point, but then later on, if they were able to, access, some pepper ball devices or some 40 millimeter munitions, then all the better. And one of the problems with the incident overall is that it was protracted, even if it was only that little bit there, because what happened is as they flooded the line, they were still losing control of the incident. And I put that squarely on the things that they didn't have in their tool belt there, that they didn't have the OC, that they didn't have batons, that they didn't have some of those devices. So, if you want to talk about the things that can, cause an incident to keep going and going and going, is the lack of those basic things. The longer an incident ensues, the greater chance there is for physical harm to both staff and to inmates. And so if you're all shaking in your boots about giving some people some OC and some batons, your thinking is wrong. The more tools that we give staff to operate with, the more that we make them that force multiplier that I always talk about, the better your results are going to be. And the shorter your incidents are, the less likelihood there is for death. That's pure and simple.
And I know some people, obviously there's always concerns of how OC used or how batons are used, because it can go from a weapon to guys. They are tools. And when you don't give the officers those tools to kind of stop the incident, you force them into survival mode. This officers that was fighting those inmates are in survival mode. There's no effort there to stop. It's either I'm going to be killed or I'm going to kill them. That's just how it is. You're getting stabbed multiple times. It's like, what, at the end of the day, it's my life or theirs. And not to give people, the officers, the tools to manage these inmates, and if there are people that misuse it, then hold them responsible, write them up. But there's no way no officer should be on the floor without tools, like Russ said. The OC minimal. The officer should be able to have that as an immediate way to respond. And with 3 officers on the floor, I get we may not want the baton right on the floor. I understand that. That's a different ball game. But the OC is the immediate officer's tool to get that action. So think about this. If that inmate got him the first time, that officer was pushed back, that officer could have had time to quickly grab that OC and just spray it like as best she could to try to see if if it can get some reaction from the inmates, but they didn't. They didn't. I don't think they had OC. So, hey, Russ, anything you'd like to say in closing?
Yeah, I just want to say to the Souza Baranowski crowd, I'm not sure how you pronounce it once again. I love you guys. And I hope that this incident, I hope that your people are all okay. I hope that the officer that took the most amount of the puncture wounds there, I hope that, you know, he's better immediately. And then most of all, there's some changes to be had here. And I hope you guys will do everything that you can to push for those changes and to make sure that you get them. Every one of you should have pepper spray. Everyone should have a baton. Everyone should have chemical grenades. Everyone should have, non-centralized area to get real serious munitions, more grenades, more 40 mic pepper ball and all that stuff. My stepson is a pepper ball instructor, as in fact, and those get great results, and that would put less emphasis on the physical part of going in there and having to struggle with just these handfuls of inmates. I've been there, I've done it, and I know that that we're better off when we have standoff tools that allow us to increase that gap and not get us close to those weapons that they are bringing. I hope also, and I've heard this, is that there's been tactical issues about not bringing in the teams and not doing full searches of these facilities. You have to get control over that contraband. Shame on the people that caused that. Shame on the people that aren't for doing these searches. Shame on them for, aggravating the circumstances under which the brave men and women of corrections operate at that facility.
Yeah, and guys, a couple of things. So, being told the officers do not have OC, they're pushing for it, and they don't even have stab vests, which is something that they're pushing for. Now, guys, remember what Russ said is centralized areas for immediate access, but the OC should be on them. It should be on
Absolutely.
them. Anybody that's walking that floor needs to have that OC, because that is your effort. Also, if you want to look at the softer side, that is your effort to de-escalate. They said all they have are their balls and their fists, and they expect us to fight for our lives, which is what I just said. So these officers were not even given any effort or anything, any tools in place to go ahead and even de-escalate, let alone to give them advantage if something happens. And I also want to mention, Russ, what was your thought? You had another thought real quick? Because I want to mention one more thing.
No, I just, just when I hear about this, I mean, I just want the guys there at that facility, the guys and gals there, to be able to, do the job that they have to do. And I hope that this is going to be a catalyst for change. And I just, keep going over that. When I started, we didn't have OC. We did have PR-24 batons, and that was good. The OC made a huge difference in the way that we engaged inmates. And I saw what I thought was an immediate reduction in the number of injuries to inmates and the number of injuries to staff. And so for people to say that, we want more staff injured, we want more inmates injured, and so we're not going to give them pepper spray, that may not be the sentences that they're forming. That may not mean what they mean, but they may not understand then the way things work in the real world out here. And so, anyway, just wanted to, I just keep wanting to unburden myself with all of this stuff that goes on, because there are smarter, better ways to do lots of things in corrections, and it just irks me when I see them not being done.
Yeah, guys, the first thing as we watch this video, my closing thought, you see the person could have used the OC just to buy some time. Inmate reacts to it, then you're able to buy some time for the team to come in. Also, a punctured lung. Was he wearing a vest? So, I mean, these are things that, could have prevented it from being as serious as it was, giving the chance for the officers to utilize the tools they have to de-escalate, but also to protect themselves. But as you watch this video, it seems like it's an ongoing battle for them to get the resources that they need to manage these inmates, but yet the pressure to have these inmates come out of their cell, the more problematic ones, yet without balancing it out, without giving the officers the resources so they can manage these problematic inmates. And again, behavioral adjustment. Once we start softening these verbiages to meet whatever that perspective is, then people are going to kind of use that soft verbiage to say, well, why aren't we giving the inmate more? Yet if we just stay focused on what it really is, hey guys, these inmates did this, they're now going to get sent to a punitive. Yes, I said punitive, a punitive unit, and don't expect anything at that point. Stop asking. You could push from the outside, but we will focus that it is a punitive unit. And there are measures to make sure that their mental health is taken care of. But as for the push to give them back all these privileges, guys, it's a punitive unit. It makes it hard to defend that when the punitive unit is guised as the behavioral unit. Now people are like, well, it's the behavioral unit. Well, why aren't they getting this stuff? Well, yeah, we'll look into it. Yeah, no, guys, you focused on what it really is. They should be in a punitive unit. Therefore, those questions or the urgency to push for more things back there should be a quick response. Guys, it's a punitive unit. But you're defending the behavioral unit when it really is a punitive unit, and they don't equate because people are going to expect two different things. If someone told me it was a punitive unit, I expect this to be a high-level security unit, whatever it is. But when someone starts saying it's a behavioral unit, I may not expect from the outside that much security in there, but that much limited privileges there. I may want more, because again, a lot of people believe reward good behavior. No, that's not how you run prison. You run a prison by taking things away and then strategically finding ways to give it back. You don't run a prison on a reward system, because then it becomes an expectation, that if I do this, I
get a right.
And a right. And then now you start getting manipulation in there, or it's just a whole mess of things. You run it by total control. What do you have? I'll take it away. And if you want it back, act better. That's how this system works. But these officers are warriors. Just that one officer that was getting attacked, is a warrior, and he stayed in the fight. And then you got the other officers trying to help him out. Stuff like this could have been prevented 100%. I think this could have been prevented, but it's definitely got to bring things to the table and just start asking, hey, where are you at with getting these officers OC and getting them a vest? Where are we at? And why does an incident like this have to happen?
100.
For someone to have these discussions, because right now, everybody's doing it. So what is going on that you cannot give your officers at least minimal, the OC and the damn stab-proof vest? Ridiculous. As always, guys, the show is here. If you haven't, please subscribe, interact, engage, comment, hit that bell. Bell's going to notify you every time I post a video. Thank you, Russ, as always. Stay safe.